Hello, hello, hello.
Hi, everyone.
Guys, we're so super excited. Hopefully you guys can hear us okay. I don't know if you
Let me check that.
are watching live. Awesome. So thank you for tuning in. Yeah, Eastern. For those of you who are in the West Coast, it might be a little bit earlier for you. If you are in the UK, if you're watching come to us from the UK, you're either fast asleep or very early Eastern. Yeah, depending on where you're at. So we're super excited for today. We are planning to do more podcasts like this. This is going to be our first of hopefully many podcasts. And yeah, let's just see how this goes. So if you're joining us, let us know where you're joining us from. Say hi to us. We can see your comments. See?
Yeah, we're excited. So this is gonna literally gonna be our first podcast, and we're gonna be
I'm ready. I'm ready. One of the things that we're super excited about to talk about in this podcast, and you might see in the title, is that most believers beg for a taskmaster. And this topic came about from a conversation that Patrick and I were having. So we're going to focus a lot of what we do in our movement. We focus a lot on, the journey that the the Israelites took when they were journeying through the wilderness, right? So that experience of the story that we read about in Exodus. What was their journey? What was their process? What were the things that they went through? Yeah, what were the things that they went through? And so, what a lot of what we focus on is that. And why is it doing that? Can you guys hear us? Okay.
let us know if you can hear us. So you gotta close it.
Am I holding something?
Yeah.
Oh, can you hear us better now? No, it's still doing that. Can you guys hear us? Okay. Yeah, it's still a little scratchy. Is it good? I don't know. Can you hear us? I don't know. There's somebody watching, so I don't know if a person can hear us. Okay. Well, I don't know if it's scratchy. Should we use a different one? I still hear it. It's this microphone. Can we switch? It's still doing it. Can we switch? Guys, give us 1 second. Hang on. How about now? Can you hear us now?
Working the tech here. Let's keep doing that.
Can you hear us now? There we go. Can you hear us now? Okay, turn it down because then you're going to get a lot of reverb. All right, yay, you can hear us now. Okay, so as I was saying, that a lot of what we do in our movement, a lot of what we focus on is the journey that the Israelites took through the wilderness. So they went through a journey, right? They have maybe they were in slavery, right, in Egypt, and God came and saved them. He brought a deliverer. He brought somebody through Moses to then deliver them and take them through this wilderness process to get to the promised land. So a lot of what we do in our movement really focuses on that. So a lot of the topics that we're going to talk about is what does that look like in a practical sense? What does that look like in everyday life? And how are we also taking a similar journey? Do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for passing the mic. But yeah, I think like coming off from a 9 to 5 perspective, like I know that a lot of people. So let me speak from my perspective. I remember when I was about the point of like leaving my job, like one of my biggest fears was like, oh my God, like provision. Like my biggest fear was like, oh Lord, like how am I going to survive? Like how is this going to work? Almost like the title is perfectly said, taskmaster. Like we are afraid of of taskmasters, because what happens is for so many years, like I've been working since I was 14. Like I remember my mom sending me to cut grass with this person, and I would cut grass for about an hour and I get like $20. But working for so long, like your brain becomes programmed to the point that you're like, when you quit your 9 to 5, the hardest part is literally like reprogramming your mind to be an entrepreneur. Like
Mhm.
literally, that's my hardest part, is like, how can I have the mindset, the growth mindset of an entrepreneur to continue to create wealth and not be able to surrender to the taskmaster. So
Yeah, I think before we go there, though, it's important for us to backtrack a little bit.
yeah.
So, when we look at what the people in Israel, what they were up against when they were in Egypt, they were up against Pharaoh. And a lot of and I know that this was true for me when God brought me out of my job, was that um we look at Pharaoh in the same way that we look at the Bible describes Pharaoh as a taskmaster, literally somebody who is appointing tasks to others to complete, right? So what was their job? Their job was to do labor. It was to trade their time for resources, right? And we later
Mhm.
learn that when the Israelites were taken into the wilderness, we hear them complaining, hey, in Egypt we had provision. In Egypt we had this, da da da. But they were complaining, not realizing, oh, but so we're asking for slavery. We're literally asking to go back to slavery. So a lot of people feel called to come out of their 9 to 5. They feel called to come out of that and into the thing that God has for them. And sometimes that might mean changing your career, coming out of a traditional type of work setting. Maybe God is calling you to not work at all. Whatever it is that God is calling you to do. And when I say not work at all, I don't mean like never work. I just mean that there might be a season for that where he's wanting to do something different than what you're doing right now, just to really connect with him and to figure out what is that thing he's calling you to do. But so many times, we look at the people in our job, our bosses in our 9 to 5s, they're taskmasters. They're literally set to assign tasks to you. So when we talk about most people, most believers beg for a taskmaster, it has a lot to do with our mindset. Like, what are we thinking about? What do we believe about the people who are bosses? Why do we look for bosses? Why do we want that? Right. And I think because for so many people, it provides a sense of comfort. We believe, hey, I'm going to be provided for. I know I'm going to get, whatever in exchange for this work that I'm doing. And it's something that's consistent. And I know that it's going to be there. Right. I know that that same work is going to be there tomorrow and the next day and the next day. But when you journey with God, when He takes you out of that, a lot of times it's not that. A lot of times it's unpredictable, right? We don't necessarily know what's going to happen next. The Israelites didn't know what was going to happen next. They just knew that they were delivered, and it was like, okay, what do we do next? So, what do you think might be part of the reason why people search for a taskmaster? Why do you think? And I know you can speak to this because this journey is a little bit newer in the mindset. So, talk to me a little bit about that. Why do you think people search for a boss? Why do we want a 9 to 5? Why do we want a boss? Why is that? What's going on in like inside? What do you think?
Of like the people that are begging for a taskmaster.
Hmm.
I think like there was a time where I speak a lot about this in our community, and I always say that people are constantly seeking to improve their lives, but they are, so I always use this frame of mindset of like fixed mindset and growth mindset, because it resembles like exactly like people who want to succeed, people that want to go to higher, people that want to go to where God is calling them, the purpose that the God has for them, right? And sometimes what stops them to achieving the goal, let's say an example, they want to achieve, they want to write a book, they want to start a business, they want to start a podcast, they want to be in stages, like they have all these dreams. And I remember doing a research one time in Google, and that was before AI. And I was like, what stops people from taking action in life? Like, what stops people from becoming like the bestseller? What stops people from becoming, a business owner? What stops people from becoming a minister on fire, a believer on fire? Right? Since we're talking about taskmasters, like, what stops people from quitting their 9 to 5? Like, I truly believe that what stops people from uh, quitting a 9 to 5 is the fear of not having consistent income, and that impacts the way uh, of being in a comfort zone. When you're in a comfort zone, like repeatedly, like you wait for the paycheck each week, and you're like, oh, I'm released. Like I'm relief. Like there's like this relief. Like Myron Golden says it best. He says each people are addicted to a paycheck. And he says people are addicted to a paycheck because the only way they can survive each week is because the anxiety that they carry inside, for they know they have a bigger potential, a bigger purpose. Like they know that they have a bigger purpose. So now what is happening is they are so addicted to that in their comfort zone, and you're like, okay, like wh- what's gonna happen next, right? But what, you want to say something?
Yeah. I'm just trying to set this up over here. So I think if you can actually do me a favor,
I think I'm gonna do that too.
if you could, no, it's okay. If you could actually go to Exodus 111 for me. Can you pull that up for a second? So this is super important, okay? So Exodus 111 I think gives us a little bit more insight into this topic. No, I can't. It's not going to work. So just leave it where it is.
Okay.
Exodus 111. So Exodus 111, could you just pull that up for me real quick?
Exodus 1:11.
Oh,
Okay.
gotta turn that off. Okay, so Exodus 111. Can I read it?
Yeah.
All right. So Exodus 111. If you guys have it, pull up, have it. Exodus 111 says, so they put this says slave masters. This is I think this is the NIV, but the other
Yeah, I
versions
get that. You
say,
the New King James version? That's King New King James version.
yeah, that's fine. So it says, therefore they set taskmasters over them to afflict them with their burdens, and they built for Pharaoh supply cities, Pithom and Ramses. Okay. So there's something super important here, right? First of all, it says, therefore they set taskmasters over them to afflict them with their burdens.
Mm.
So check this out.
Can I have the
Okay.
phone?
I need it for a second.
Okay.
So check this out for a second. Okay. So taskmasters, when you put a taskmaster over someone, it's literally saying, I'm placing this task over you.
Mm.
And it had to do with a burden. So you take on the burden of the manager, of the boss, of the CEO, of
Yeah.
whoever it is that you're working under. So, whatever burden that they had, you now are taking that burden and you are exchanging time for money, right? Time for resources. So, this is what you're doing. So, when you have the taskmaster over you, now they're putting the burden upon you, right? So, that's the first part of this. The second part of this, okay, says that to afflict them with their burdens, and they built for Pharaoh supply cities. So, who are they building for? They're building for Pharaoh. So, whose dream are you building? Is my question. Are you building your dream or are you building somebody else's dream? Because when you work in a 9 to 5 setting, you are building the dream of the other person. You're not building your dream. You're not building the thing that God is calling you to do. You're building the dream of the other person. So in the same case, what is it that the Israelites were building? They were building supply cities. That means that there was an abundance in Egypt. There was an overflow in Egypt. And so those supply cities would be places where they would take these supplies in case something happened. So not only was it just, we think of, oh, maybe they were building the pyramids or whatever they were doing. No, they were actually building the cities for which they would have those supplies. So we see it right here in Exodus 1:11. The taskmasters were appointed over the people, the burdens, right? The Pharaoh was not building it himself. He would put the burden on the people so that their dream can be built, not that their dream, not what they wanted to do or the thing that God put in them. So it's the same thing when we think about, jobs that we're called to work. Now, we're not like anti-job, right? I think in some cases there are seasons where we need to be in 9 to 5s. There's seasons, there's things you have to learn. I don't think that I would be able to serve in the way that I do now in the church or even in my business if I hadn't started as a waitress, right? How many years did I wait tables? How many years, did I do that? So I think that there are seasons for things. We learn things. But if God has called you out of a traditional 9 to 5 job, whether it's because you just had a child and he wants you home with that child, or it's because you want to travel and you want to be a traveling minister, or you want to go to, other countries and you want to help people in other countries, it's very difficult to do that if you are in a traditional 9 to 5 position. So for those who know, if I'm speaking to you, and there's ways to kind of break out of that. So I just wanted to add that in Exodus 1:11. I think that's really important.
Yeah, and let me just go a little more profound here. The most craziest thing is the most thing that blows my mind is people rather have a 9 to 5 and live under a taskmaster slave into your 65 than trying
I
to
think it's 68 now.
68 now.
I think it's 68. It's going to
Really?
keep going up.
Wow,
Keeps
that's
going up.
yeah, it's insane because people are addicted to it. Like there's millions of people are saying, "Hey, there is a new way to do this." Like literally, you don't have to work until you're 65. Like you're 65. Like you don't want to be the person who is driving a Lamborghini and you're going like at 20 miles an hour when you should be going at 85. Like I want to retire when I'm 35. Like when I'm 40, my goal is like I want to retire when I'm 40.
But talk about why. Like, talk about why that's important. We're not talking about like doing something where you're like, oh, I need to go, because my goal in life is to make all this money. That's not even what
Yeah.
this is about.
Yeah.
This is about when my time is free and my home is taken care of, provisions are taken care of, things are
Yeah.
going well. When that is my story,
Yeah.
then I can be free to do the things I want to do,
Yeah.
right? I want to go and be able to go to other countries and minister there. I want to be
Yeah.
able to have the freedom that if God said, hey, I need you to go to this city and I
Yeah.
want you to preach, guess what? I can do it.
Yeah.
And I don't have to be like, oh, I need another day off, or oh, I used up all my sick days, right? You have the control, you have the ability over that. So I think
Yeah.
that's really important.
Yeah. And the reason why I say this is because like there are so many people up there that like have the potential, have the ability, have the skill, and they are just fighting this giant. So let me tell you a story. There was a time where, and I'm kind of like overcoming this as I go. It's a journey. So there was a time where I want to become like this musician, this singer. Like I want to become this rapper, and I'm like, and I used to do it, and I used to do it with my friends in the car, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. It's 10 years. Like every time I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it, it almost seemed like a Goliath came to me and said, "Bow, stay down. You don't matter. Your potential doesn't matter. Your purpose doesn't matter. You are a failure. You are a loser. You are this. You are that. You are this." And so it continually said that to me. It continually tell me like your music is not worth it. Like you are not worth it. You are not worth it. You stay down. You have a purpose. Stay down.
Mm-hmm.
And that giant almost seemed like David and Goliath, right? But I was constantly losing for 10 years until like literally at the end of this year of December, I think of last year, I was like, you know what? I am not gonna allow this giant to take me down. Like I'm not gonna allow this giant to keep me prisoner. And so for a lot of people that are just arriving, we're talking about like why must believers are taskmasters, like why a lot of people are
Why do we beg for a
why
taskmaster?
do we beg for a taskmaster, or why do we beg to have a boss over us? Because the reality is a lot of people are so comfortable in their 9 to 5. A lot of people are so comfortable, they're like, you know what, like this is good for me, like I'm doing good, I'm making $20 an hour, I'm okay, I'm surviving.
Mm.
But the reality of it is you're like, for those who know the Bible and for those who don't, for those who don't know the Bible, there's a story in the Bible that talks about Moses, and this man is in Egypt, and God gives him a vision. He says, "Hey Moses, go to Egypt and get my people out of Egypt because I have a promised land. I have a land of promise for you." Like Moses, the guy in the Bible, he had fears. He had fears. He was afraid. He was like, "Hey, listen, man. Like, I don't know who you are. I don't know what you're doing, but I have some major questions for you. Like, like I like God. Like, listen, like you're good. Like, this fire's not turning off and everything, but you tell me to go do something crazy, like out of this world, intense." And so the reality of it is like we love taskmasters because it makes us feel safe. Like we love having a 9 to 5 because it makes us feel safe.
Can I add to that though?
Yeah, yeah. You
But
just have to,
what I
yeah.
want to say is that what is the cost, right? So everything costs something. So what is the cost of staying in that position? So a lot of times we like it because we feel like, oh, this is giving us a sense of security. It's giving us a sense of something, right? But there's a cost for everything. Okay? There's a cost, and the cost is your dream. The cost is that, when you retire and you look back at your life and you're like, man, why didn't I pursue the things that I wanted to pursue? And so you have to give up something. And in this case, you're giving up your dream. You're giving up
Literally.
the thing that you're called to do. Let me say some things that none of you that are watching here, those of you who are here on Instagram, or if you're watching on Facebook, wherever, nobody here was created and put on this earth to simply have a regular job, to work, to clock in, to clock out, to go to sleep, to live for the weekends, Monday through Friday, same old everyday grind. Nobody was created for that. You were created for a specific assignment. Okay. There's a specific reason that God knit you in your mother's womb, placed you there, created you, allowed you to be like, the fact that you're alive is
Mm,
literally a miracle. I think the odds are like one in like a quadrillion or something. Like
yeah,
it's some
it's like insane.
crazy number. It's literally next to impossible. The fact that you are born, every single soul on this earth there's a reason for their being born. Now, not everybody understands or comes to understand why they were placed on the earth. Okay. Not everybody figures out their purpose. And for those who start on that journey, a lot of times they get stopped along the way. Why do they get stopped along the way? Because doubts come in, fears come in, God is doing it. But what we're living in a state of disobedience, right? And they say delayed obedience is still disobedience
Mm,
because it's God's timing. But sometimes God will orchestrate certain events in your life and allow them to happen to push you and move you into the direction through which He's calling you to go.
mm,
And so this is why I come back to this question of what is it going to cost you? Right? It's going to cost you
Everything.
everything. It's going to cost you everything to not do what God has called you to do. So, why do we beg for taskmasters? And I'm going to tell you, when you're in this journey and you're not sure what happens next, it's faith. You have no other choice but to walk by faith. You have to
Mm.
walk by faith. It's every day is a decision that I am going to choose the assignment that God has placed in my life. I'm going to choose the thing that he has for me. And and I when I look at the example of the Israelites in the desert and they start begging to go back to Egypt. They start begging to go back to slavery. Like, contextualize this in your mind for a moment. Okay? Those of you, if anybody has ever been in prison for whatever reason, or you know somebody who's been in prison, or you can just think about the prison system in general, right? Um, Anybody who's been in that kind of situation, you're fed, right? 3 square meals may not be tasty meals, but you're getting meals.
Mhm.
Okay. You're getting those 3 square meals. You're able to go. You're able to do, to go and maybe do some basketball. I don't know. I don't know. Like, whatever you're doing. Okay. There's classes. You get alone time, whatever. It's okay. Right. You have a roof over your head. You have a blanket. You have a bed. Okay. You have your basics. Um, but are you willing to give up what you're called to do, what makes you thrive? What, and I think of this too. I'll never forget the school that I worked at right before the last school that I was at, where I haven't shared with some of the new people here. You don't know my full story, but and part of my story is that I worked for one of these schools and I had a principal that was there. And the principal told me that she didn't see leadership in me. And
Mm.
this was like, whoa, like it was a huge slap in the face for me, because I'm like, how is it possible that you don't see that in me when I know that God has called me in that area? And people, when you're working in a night, when you have a 9 to 5 or you have a boss over you, a lot of times they're not going to see your potential, right? Again, they're looking to offload the burden. They're looking to fill a position, and you happen to be that person. So if I'm not working there anymore and I go, they're going to replace me,
Mm.
right? But nobody can replace you for the thing that God has assigned for you to do. There's not, and one of the things that irks me so much in the Christian communities is this idea that I will find somebody else. And yes, there's scripture that says, that God will raise up another and all this other stuff, because yes, his purposes and his plans, but nobody will be able to impact the people in the way that you were called to impact them,
Yeah.
right? There is a unique DNA that you carry, not just as a person, but there is a unique DNA that you carry in the assignment for which you've been created for. Nobody else has had your experiences.
Mm.
Nobody else has the same message that you carry. And so without understanding the weight of that, right? We're so focused on, I need to chase a paycheck. I need to make sure I have that steady weekly or biweekly paycheck. I need to make sure I have that. We're giving up so much, and your employer's not always going to see your potential. There's a certain level, right, to which you can go, and that bar is already set for you. Hey, you're salaried. I'm going to salary you for $50,000 a year, or I'm going to salary you for, or whatever it is, or I'm going to hire you and I'm going to pay you $20 an hour, or whatever, $50 an hour, $30, whatever it is. And that's it. You're not going any further than that.
Yeah.
Okay. There is the ability, of course, in some positions to move up, but in entrepreneurship, it's totally different. I get to decide how much I make. I get to decide if I fail, right? I get to decide if I'm successful. And so when you're partnering with God in that, there's such a big difference, right? There's such a big difference. Your people, what is this? I'm not sure. This person's saying something, but
Yeah, just keep going. Just
yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what that has reference to. But
yeah,
okay. Do you wanna add on to
yeah,
that?
yeah. So
My phone is gonna
we
die
got
over here on
we're
Instagram,
gonna
so I'm
go
gonna
we
have
gotta go a
to.
couple more minutes, but yeah. So
Yeah.
so basically, the whole conclusion of everything we've been saying since the beginning is literally what we're saying is you don't need to have a taskmaster over your life. Like
Mm-mm.
you can, like when you allow the possibilities and you remove the roof, like the sky's the limit, like people say. Like literally, you have endless possibilities
Mhm.
when you can remove the ceiling, you literally raise up the floor. Like literally, literally. Okay? So like for those who have faith and for those that don't have faith, right? Like we love God, like that's who we are, that's what we do. But God has provided a way for his people to become successful. And it's not all about success, it's more about preserving God as the center of everything. But knowing and understanding God's principles will literally help you become successful. There's a person that's like massive, like successful right now. His name is Myron Golden. Go check him out. But God, he talks all about the Bible, right? So what I'm saying is, when you're able to see beyond a 9 to 5, you're gonna fall into a business. You're gonna fall into entrepreneurship. You're gonna fall into freedom. You're gonna fall into what God always had for you. Like you're gonna fall into something better. Like what I'm trying to say is trying to give you the belief that you can. Trying to give you the belief that there's more up there than what people have showed you. Like there's more than what your mother, your father, your uncle, your cousin, your sister, your brother have said. Go to school, get a job, right? Go to college, make sure you get a good job, right? You go to college and you pay like 100K. Like what is the lowest? Like is it more than that? Like I
Depends
haven't
on what school
like
you
I
go
haven't
to.
like I haven't been to college. Like I remember applying one time, but like what is it, like 200K, 300K, like
It just
40?
depends on the school that you go to.
Like what
But
was yours? Like
well, I had scholarships, so
okay.
it's not. It's, I mean, but it depends on the school you go to,
Yeah.
and it's, I mean, and we all know that it depends on what school you go to. But I think the point is that why should you start your life in so much debt as
Yeah.
opposed to starting your life
Yeah.
with a vehicle that you can make
Yeah.
income right away? So
Yeah.
most college students, they're not turning a job right away
Yeah.
after school. They're trying to figure it out still,
Yeah.
and they kind of get forced into a major. Then they're
Yeah.
like, I don't even want to do this, or they have to
And,
switch it halfway through, or
and then they
whatever.
switch, right? And then they switch.
They
So
switch or they drop out or whatever.
so my point literally is, this is my point, okay? And I'm gonna cut to the conclusion. The conclusion is, you can go to college, pay 100K, right? It's literally like a robbery. Like, so I love school like to a certain degree because it teaches the basics, whatever, like math, English, reading, all this stuff, like the basics, right? But going to college is literally like a robbery. Give me 100K and then go find your way. Literally. Like, give me 100K and then go find your way. Like, go find a way however you can, right? They basically say, I'm going to train you. Like, let's say you're going to be an engineer. You're going to be an engineer. You're going to be an engineer. You train for like 10 years. 10 years, bro. In 10 years, you don't know if you're going to have life tomorrow.
I kind of disagree with you on some of this because I think that college is important to a degree. Do I think that if you're going to be an aeronautics engineer that you need to take philosophy? No. I don't think you need to do that. I don't think that that's necessary. Do I think that if you are, studying biology, that it's really important for you to take 18th century literature? Not really, right? So I think it is important to a degree. Like I have degrees. It was helpful to go to college to be able to, I mean, some of what I've learned, I probably didn't have to do that. But I think if you know what you want and there's specialized classes or ways to do it, it can definitely help you in entrepreneurship for sure. But I think that there's also a lot of majors out there. There's a lot of things out there that are not helpful. And not necessary. But I think the point is that you could absolutely have a career that is successful, even if we did more apprenticeship models of things, right? Apprenticeships are fantastic, right? There's no reason why you can't do an apprenticeship and learn and go and actually get the skills that you need to learn and to create a business or something like that. So I'm not like totally like anti-college, but do I think that the way that it's been functioning is a little scamish? Yes. But mostly in the sense of forcing you to take credits on things that you really don't need for what you're going to do. There's ways to also enforce those skills, critical thinking skills, and whatever in classes that are oriented towards what you're studying. Like, I would want my doctor to go to college, I would want my
Right.
lawyer to know the law, right?
Yeah.
So, obviously, those are important things. But the narrative of you need to go to college in order to have a successful life is not necessarily the truth. You could start a business and not do that, right? There's lots of ways to do that. So I think if you just kind of tweak some of that, But I do have to disagree with you a little bit on that point. But I get what you're
Yeah.
saying, about the.
Yeah, so my point was literally like there's literally like colleges just like you were saying, like there's some classes that you take that you don't need.
Hmm.
And there's some like I only agreed if you have to go to like with doctor or like an engineer, like something that you can just become an expert on, right? Like anywhere. But majority of it, like the school system has failed a lot of us, even myself, right? And so what I'm saying is like have a plan B. Like start your business before you go to college. Like you know what I mean? Like become aware that there's endless possibilities before you go into an area where you're like, oh my god, I just finished college, I graduated, now in debt, and now I have to go get a job at Stop and Shop or McDonald's. Be like, oh my, like how did I just get a PhD and I'm working at McDonald's, or like how did I just get a PhD and I'm working at Stop and Shop or Walmart,
Or have
right?
multiple streams of income
Yeah,
set up, or at least learn how to invest, learn how to do other things. Because in this model, it's more like I need to do this, and by doing this, I'm going to just focus on that one stream of income. And then when you don't have it anymore, what do you do, right?
yeah,
Most of us are not taught to invest, to do these other things. But hey, this is a big part of it, right? It's learning how to be independent in a lot of your income sources and how to create those. But also, we're going to talk more about this. We're going to go into more depth um, in topics such as these at our conference. So highly recommend that if you can grab yourself a ticket. We still have some in-person tickets that are available, but we also have a lot of virtual, pretty much unlimited virtual. But if you could join us in person, it's really great. But tellyourstory.com/conference. Join us. We're going to talk about stuff like this. We're going to talk about ways that you can also step into this kind of thing, to really, to not have to be begging for a taskmaster. We don't want you to have to
exactly.
beg for a taskmaster.
Exactly. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. And we're probably gonna go live again sometime this
At some
week.
point, this is
Sometime
number one. We're
this
testing it
day.
out.
This is day one. Okay. Well, thank you guys. We'll see you soon. Bye bye.
I need this one.